You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/CheapGeek. So welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is episode number 129.
Weird Wednesday, we met a psychic, interview, and investigation too.
Yeah.
Load it.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah.
So welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 129. Yes.
Yep.
If it is your birthday, I would like to say happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. If it's not your birthday, that's okay. Anyway, if you've been listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast, or you're tuning into the CreepGeeks Podcast on the regular, like many new listeners are, we are very much appreciative of the effort of whatever it takes to listen to a podcast. A couple different ways you can listen to the podcast out there, and we understand that. So this episode is episode number 129. We met a psychic, and we also have the interview and investigation too. So with this particular podcast, we do things a little bit differently here. So what is this podcast all about?
Well, broadcasting paranormal news and fun stories from our CreepGeeks Bunker Studio in the mountains of western North Carolina. We're an offbeat news podcast that takes a lighthearted approach to the strange, the stupid, paranormal, and tech topics circulating the web.
Yeah, that's nice. So this particular podcast is our Weird Wednesday episode. It's an episode where we basically break down an unusual topic or subject, or some kind of trending phenomena,
and try to provide like a background to it. Sometimes we'll notice things popping up in the news that are very popular, but people are like, wait, why is this popular? And we'll dive into that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, indeed. So if you'd like to participate in the CreepGeeks Podcast, you can certainly do that. We have a telephone number that you can call and leave a message.
And that phone number is 575-208-4025.
Yes, because we appreciate the weird stories and things that people like to share. It helps us. It helps us to find interesting things to talk about. Yes. And did you know that you can also support our podcast, the CreepGeeks Podcast, with little to no effort on your part? Won't cost you anything at all. And it kind of goes like this. When you shop on Amazon.com, if you use our affiliate link, we'll get a small percentage. Yeah, it doesn't change your price, and it helps us keep the coffee flowing and gas in our Albino Rhino, our DIY simple camper van that we use when we go out and do investigations and such. Because not only do we talk about the weird, the wild, the wacky, the wonderful, and all the crazy cryptid stuff and basically all the paranormal type stuff, we investigate it as well.
Yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that affiliate link is amazon.com/shop/CheapGeek.
Yes. And if you can't remember that, if you're listening or basically watching or whatever it is that you're doing to hear our dulcet tones right now, you can click on the link. Yeah.
All links will be in the show notes for each podcast episode.
Yes. And every podcast that we do have those links provided to you so you can follow along if you want or research something at your leisure.
Yeah.
Yes. And as we like to do with most of our podcasts, we like to start off with an interesting random factoid. Are you ready for this one?
Sure.
This interesting random factoid is one that I thought was pretty funny, but evidently it's a thing. And upon research, I found out what a thing it really is. Did you know that evidently you can get a DUI on an electric scooter?
Actually, yes, I did know.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm the only one that did not know that. Well, okay, so electric scooters are relatively new. Mm-hmm. So it seems like there's these companies, right, that are putting these electric scooters for use or for rent in different cities and such. And I don't know if there's any cost involved and all that stuff. But anyway, the first article I seen was a video actually on YouTube where this lady from Albuquerque gets a DUI on this electric scooter.
Yeah.
So, being as we have just transplanted ourselves from New Mexico, I was not at all shocked to read this.
Yeah.
Because it's New Mexico, stuff like that happens. But I was shocked to find out that in places like Texas and other places, there have been other shocking DUI arrests.
Well, the thing that shocked me about the
Because of the scooter
Albuquerque
riding.
one was that it was so soon after they were officially launched.
Heck yeah. It was like
2 weeks. It was like barely 2 weeks or something.
It's like 2 weeks and somebody's already got pulled over and got a, and from what I read, they were like extra drunk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this lady was like super drunk. So we did put a link in there so you can kind of read up on it and find out. But it kind of goes like this. If it motivates under its own power and you're riding it and you've been drinking, then you stand the risk of getting a DUI.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the TMZ.com article, which I don't necessarily go there for, any serious news, but they happen to have, some pictures and stuff like that of people getting arrested for basically riding drunk on a Bird electric scooter. And they even put a picture of the electric scooter there like it was some kind of criminal.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah. So
It's not the scooter's fault.
no, it's not. But it also showed pictures of stars riding birds. Yeah, there's like Vanilla Ice. I think that's Shaq.
Yeah.
Just stars riding little scooters around. So
It's just,
yeah.
I mean.
And Chris Pratt and Catherine Schwarzenegger, they're rolling on a scooter date.
Oh,
Oh, isn't that nice?
that's cute.
Yeah.
I mean, like you were saying, it's a motorized vehicle. It counts as basically driving
Yeah.
or operating machinery while under the influence.
Yes.
So, duh.
Well, I mean, they're yeah.
And there's so many companies in certain states, like restaurants and bars, where if it's clear that you are under the influence, they have ways to get you home safely.
Yeah. And even in the Bird in-user license agreement, it says that.
Oh.
So it shouldn't be that much of a shock, but I
Yeah.
guess it was. So there you go. There's your interesting random factoid. You can get a DUI cruising around on a silly scooter. So, and I will be honest, that's a super lame way to get a DUI. I mean, you shouldn't try to get a DUI, but I think that's really embarrassing if you do get one for being on a scooter. I mean, come on. Riding lawnmower, scissor jack, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I like the one. Have you seen the video of the guy who gets a DUI or gets arrested on this? You know what a scissor jack is?
Isn't that like the
It's a little square thing you run around in. It has like this ladder, just lifts the entire thing up to change like light bulbs and stuff like that.
Oh no, I've seen like it's like the thing you see in the warehouses. I've seen one of those.
Like a forklift.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
but this is a scissor jack, and the guy was riding it down the road, and he had a 12-pack, and the cop was like, you can't drink that. And he was like, he said it was from later or earlier or something like that. Right? And he's drinking the beer as he says, that was from earlier, like he wasn't doing it. And the cop's like, you need to come on down. And he's like, what if I don't? And he put the scissor jack and just went up like 20 feet. What are you going to do now? That kind of thing. So, but also, really all the guy had to do, if it's, the scissor jack model that I've seen before, is just walk over to the base and turn the key.
Yeah.
And then he'd been stuck up there. But it was just kind of funny. He's like, what you going to do now? And he just went straight up. So anyway, there you go. There is your interesting random factoid for today.
Yeah.
And more news.
Oh.
So we met a psychic, right?
Yes.
I have something in my throat, man. It's
So
crazy.
we met
It's
a
like
psychic.
freaking pollens, all that stuff. It's been raining like crazy.
Yeah.
We're from New Mexico.
We're not used to all
These
the
trees are trying to procreate.
trees.
It's awful.
And right now,
You should basically go to iTunes
Yeah.
or Apple Podcasts and rate us and talk about the pollen.
because
we
the
do accept
pollen
this.
would
Yeah.
get 10 stars.
That's right. So you can rate us on Apple Podcasts or iTunes if you go there from there. Google,
Yeah.
Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify. Where else?
Radio.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere you can hear the podcast.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd throw that out there. So
But
it's very, very nice.
so we're a little coffee and a little sneezy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's mostly right now.
Quick, fetch my riding scooter. Right.
It's mostly tree pollen and some other weird weed that grows out here.
Yeah, I don't even know. In New Mexico, it's just like dirt and hantavirus touched with a little tiny taste of the plague that you can get from those desert animals.
And they have an invasive species of cedar that does weird stuff during like pollen season.
Here's another interesting random factoid since I derailed this.
Yeah.
Did you know that tumbleweeds aren't native to New Mexico and other areas?
Yes.
Yes. Do you know what it's called?
No, I forgot.
Russian thistle.
We actually talked about that, though.
Yeah, because I always enjoyed tumbleweed season, where just out of nowhere, your car or vehicle or you would just get attacked by like a random 4-foot-tall bush. They just come blowing out of nowhere, right?
Didn't we talk about that on a previous podcast?
We have talked about that 3 different times in the podcast. The third time, our car got attacked, and I kicked it, and then, like, in the same place where that tumbleweed was hiding is where the lower control arm gave out, and the van was broke.
Yeah.
Sad times. Sad times. So we went to, and we actually met a psychic, and we went to the piano bar. Would you like to tell them what it is?
This is the Off the Wagon Dueling Piano Bar in Asheville. It's important to note that.
Asheville, North Carolina.
And Ben and his wife.
Well, hold on. Let's say
that.
why we were there.
Yep.
We've been doing sort of an in real life series because we're part of a paranormal investigation team called M&D Paranormal, Encrypted Research. And so we've been going there, and we've gone 3 different times so far to do investigations.
Yeah, Ben and his wife have been really nice and awesome. They've let us continue to investigate this place.
Yeah.
And basically figure out what exactly is going on in this bar.
And the progression is that now there has been a psychic brought in to see if maybe she can substantiate or validate some of the things that we felt and some of the things that we've experienced. And there is video of all this, and we are putting together that series for our YouTube channel. So we went to the Off the Wagon Dueling Piano Bar, and we met psychic Pamela Mortimer, right?
Yep.
And she went to talk to the owners, as you were saying, and also do her own little investigation, right?
Yes.
And we were there, and it was good. And what we did while we were there is we actually recorded the entire thing for you so that you can listen. And just a little warning for you. It is a long play interview. The first part of the interview is where Pamela actually talks to the owners of the Off the Wagon Dueling Piano Bar, right? Ben and Rebecca. And then the second part is questions that we were asked, or actually we were asking her. And Daniel from M&D Paranormal, of course, was there, and he had a couple questions to ask along with Ben, and I think I asked a question or 2.
Yeah.
And it's about 50 minutes, but it's worth listening to. She has a good understanding of what she's talking about, which is good because I have no idea how psychics work or what they do or how they do what they do or, what it is. The only psychics I'm familiar with are the ones on TV.
Yeah.
Like Chip Coffey and
the Angela girl that was on one of those shows.
The Angela girl, which is it's not her last name. Can't remember what her name is. But, anyway, because that's one of the things that we did with the In Real Life series, we joined a paranormal investigation team, was actually compared to what we see on TV.
Yeah. It's similar. Prior to what you're about to hear, there is something that's called, I guess, a cold read, where they walk in and they take a tour, and they feel the place out, and then they sit down, and that's what we got, the sit down. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to take a second, and we're going to play that, and then we'll be back. So stick around. You listen to the CreepGeeks Podcast. We'll be right back.
Okay, so I'm Pamela Mortimer. I'm a psychic, medium, spiritual counselor, whatever you want to call it. I'm doing it for a long time. I actually grew up in a haunted house, which we didn't really tell anybody about, but I found out later that when people would pass by our house, they would cross the street and go down the other side because they were freaked out. Nothing bad happened there. So I've done house blessings, I've done things like this. A friend and I were ghost hunters for a while. Scheduling just kind of got in the way there, but we've done a lot of places around Asheville. And I've been wanting to come here for a while. So I also do readings for people, mediumship, tarot readings, things like that. So why am I here? What would you like to know?
basically we just want to learn about things, entities, people, spirits, whatever is here. We kind of want to learn more about them, the history. While they're here, are they happy with the place? Before it was our dual piano bar, it turned into like a rough type of hip hop club.
Okay.
Towards the end, before we took over. I don't know, so just kind of want to be like, hey, so you like us better than the previous place? Do you like our music? Because we're not talking about beating bitches, we're singing, the classic songs, Summer of '69, playing Queen, Bryan Adams, all sorts of stuff. So different energy, different dynamic. Just want to see why they're here. Are they stuck here? What exactly is going on? That's basically what we're trying to figure out.
Okay. So what I was saying before was when we were upstairs, that was I felt some things down here, especially along the back where you were talking about with the doors. But I'll start upstairs because it's a little less exciting. But there was a couple upstairs. They were older, and he had worked in, I kept getting factory, but I think he might have been like a repairman, a serviceman. He worked with his hands. And they were a married couple. There were no children up there. Just peaceful, just sort of retiring, nothing terribly exciting, just blue collar. Now down here, there's a lot of stuff going on in here, especially back there. Now what I was getting, I went back into that employees only area, so don't have me arrested. But I saw a little girl, and there were 3 other children. She was about 8 or 9. I'm not really good with kids' ages, but around there, fairly young. And she was, when I walked in the room, there were kids. There was a baby, and then 2 3 to 4 year olds. I guess I'd still call them toddlers, but even though they're really not. But they were back there with the baby, and when she saw me come in, she walked up front, like, what are you doing here? Just sort of very, very protective. And I get that even though she was really young, her parents were not here. She was sort of put in charge while they weren't here. And it almost felt like they lived in the back of it was interesting when you said a store, almost like it was adjacent to some sort of business. And so I think her parents were around, but they just weren't really present. And that's what I've gotten so far. Is there anything that you want to ask about specifically? Sometimes when we have conversations, things come. They just sort of come when they want to.
Well, yeah, we've had 3, 4, 5 different people now that have seen a man in a top hat.
Okay.
And these are people that's never met each other. She's seen a man in a top hat. Daniel's seen a man in a top hat, and said they never met each other. Obviously, they have now, but these different people from 2014 until now have seen a man in a top hat. He's been seen in that corner, the northwest corner, here on stage, the back bar, and then Daniel, you saw him towards the front doors.
Saw him right there at that pillar.
And one lady said she had a really good view of him, and looks like an older man. I think she said maybe in her 50s. So just wondering if you get anything about this particular gentleman.
Okay. Is he doing anything when they see him, or is he just standing there?
It's kind of standing.
So you said you've seen him,
yeah,
right?
He was over in the corner. We were actually on the far end, and we were working out, exercising, but I just glanced up, and there he was, and then I glanced away again, and it was gone. But it was just a form of a black shape with a top hat, plain as day. Just there for a second and gone the next.
Interesting. I'm not seeing him so far. Now, do these things happen when it's empty? Generally?
Yeah, this was just us and our kids here.
Nothing ever happens when people are in the room?
One thing, so it's so busy here. I was telling the M&D team, the CreepGeeks, Saturdays we might have between 600 and 700 people in here. Okay. So if things do happen, not at one time, but over the course of the night,
sure.
If things do happen,
nobody's really
you wouldn't know because someone bumped into me. But a lot of times, it's towards the end of the night. Imagine all these people coming and all these bodies coming and all their energy, so maybe he kind of tap in, and that's why it happens later in the night. There's other times I come in, I don't feel a thing. There's other times I come in, so I walk in and like, the hair on the back of your neck and the arms stand up.
Sure.
But usually there's always something. And for me, it's usually later in the night.
Yeah, midnight to 3 a.m. is actually the prime time. Everyone thinks it's midnight. It's not. It's 3 a.m. And there are a lot of voices in here right now. There are a lot of bodies sort of just mingling and coming and going. And not too many are really standing out to me right now. And like you were saying, like I said, when I came in, you guys have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So it was a little overwhelming as far as, trying to pinpoint stuff. Most of the stuff I am getting is from back there, and that feels mostly related to the family.
Gotcha.
The family things. And maybe they've attached to you because you do have kids. That tends to be, kids are so perceptive. Have your kids ever picked up anything here?
A little, yeah. They try to stay away. They don't like it because they do feel stuff when they get here.
How old are they?
They're 10 and 7.
Oh yeah, that's when I first started seeing things too. It was around that age. They're real perceptive. So, So tell me some more about the door. You said that someone opened the doors.
Mm-hmm. There's a video that's out there. In the video, you just see the door push open, and it just closes really fast. And that has to be done by force because those doors, you push it, it's got the hydraulic up top, so it's going to come back slowly. But it was open and then shut. It slammed shut. And like I said, that was very unique. As everyone's heard now, those doors are the security doors. You have to push the paddle to get out.
Right.
And then on the outside, we have a steel plate bolt on the outside to prevent people from tampering with it. So it's not just going to open up on its own.
Okay.
I had server made a comment like, "Oh, maybe they left," and I'm like, "Well, maybe they let something in."
Have you ever had a blessing done in your building?
No.
Or a sage burning or something?
No. When we first opened up, I had a friend of mine who preaches come in and bless the business, but that was just a simple prayer, but nothing like to bless the building and to get stuff out. But that's the only time this building has received a prayer, to my knowledge.
There's nothing bad here.
Yeah.
That's what we thought. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing bad here at all. I sense a little bit that it just keeps coming back to those kids and the family, and just I think out of necessity they just were sort of alone, and I sort of feel that a little bit of family trauma around that. But I feel really good here. I feel it's positive, and people were just doing their thing. They were just going about their lives, and I don't see, you have no reason to worry, let's put it that way, because I would know that as soon as I walked in the door. But
I've been upstairs before. Actually, first Christmas party we had here, I was too intoxicated to go home, so I had a cot upstairs, and I heard footsteps coming my way, so I didn't know if that was the people or they were messing with me. But we've also been down here and have heard footsteps upstairs numerous times, or footsteps coming down the stairwell. So I don't know if you can pick up on anything like that.
Just that couple, and they seem she especially seems very motherly. Mm-hmm. So she was probably just checking on you, make sure you were okay.
Yeah.
But the woman in the apron who bakes pies, and very sort of idyllic 50s feel is what I'm getting from that couple. Older, grown children. It's just them up there. So
we had a woman. It was the same woman that saw the black hat. The first person to see the top hat guy. She was here by herself one night. I was at Lowe's with one of the contractors, getting a bunch of supplies. We come back and she's outside in tears. She was up on a little step stool painting the bricks into the brick wall because it was all white paint. So we tried to restore it to the original color. Long story short, was she was in here. She said she was on the step ladder. And she said she felt the stepladder move, actually kind of picked up a little bit, and then she heard a voice whisper, "Help me find her."
Whoa.
Kind of sad. And then later that night, when they left, I was here, I was fine, right? Then all of a sudden, I just felt like the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I started feeling sadness. I was okay personally, but it just feels like really sad. So I went outside, took a moment, completely fine, came back inside, and there was a feeling again where I'm sitting down, I'm like, I think I'm going to cry. And then I left for the night, and then came back the next day, and everything was fine. But that was also during construction, of course, with the theory when you're banging walls out and everything like that, you're disturbing.
Right.
So
sure. Was it a male or female voice?
Male.
It was male. Interesting. I might just go and at some point just sit back there for a little while and see what comes. The man in the top hat, I don't see him here right now, but yeah, I'm just curious as to who else has been here and why. It's just a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
And
Well, back in the day, this was the original Chamber of Commerce for the city. So
Okay.
it was back then. It was the Davis Building, and I
Okay.
believe the construction. I think it opened up in 1921. So then it was the chamber for 10, 12, 14 years.
that could explain it.
And then
It
after
feels like
that-
a social event, but not like this kind of social event, more like a mixer or that kind of thing, where people are just mingling and walking around and talking.
And then according to
and
the
things
city
like
directory, we looked it up in the UNCA special collections of the history of the place. I believe this was a beauty salon after the Chamber of Commerce, and then something else. It might have been a warehouse, but then it was an abandoned warehouse for 29, 30 years. Like so abandoned, we got homeless people standing here now. The roof fell in, and then it became a club before it became us. So that's kind of like the general history of this place.
that. Okay.
Before that, what was here before, don't really know. I know there was a horse lively, I think they're called, and it was just livery. Thank you. It was just over there. There used to be some sort of street here because there's behind the front bar, there's a sewage, a manhole cover. So there's some sort of street used to be here.
So no one comes up out of the sewers in the middle of the night or anything?
I don't know. At least not yet. We'll find out.
Anything else any questions you guys have? Or I know I'm not really supposed to be talking to you, but I'm doing it anyway.
It's okay. He can fix it all in editing. Well, Photoshop the head from the floating.
That would be cool.
You know how much work that takes? I have no idea. But
It's a lot of work. It's totally not worth it.
You don't have floating heads around the house just that you can patch in there?
No, we just get weird stuff, but not floating head stuff. Well, in the last two houses we lived in, aside from the one that we own, we've seen the previous occupants there.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said that, you can see them and describe them full, just like they were there, with
Right.
all the detail. One guy, even down to he worked in the shipyard, and he had they looked like the old school, like military glasses, like BNCs, what we call it, birth control glasses, because they're so awful that nobody even had the little neck things on the side.
Oh,
I can't remember what
nice.
they're called, yeah.
Like old safety glasses or
Yeah,
something.
he had his little safety glasses. He had his, black glass, his eyeglass holder in there with 2 pens and just like everything. Coveralls, the whole deal. And yeah, he said he really liked our garage because Brady spent all his time working on a classic car. And we'd been moved in about a week or so. And when I finally met our next door neighbors, I asked him because the guy was a real personable guy. Just he let people borrow his tools, that kind of thing. And he said, I don't think so. Why? I said, well, because I seen an old man in the garage look like he was looking for something. And I just thought maybe, that he's like, no, what he looked like, and I described him, and the guy just walked away. Then he turned pale and just walked away. And I seen him like a week later when I was cutting the grass, and he's like, I gotta apologize. I said, I'd forgotten about it. He said, yeah, the man in your garage was the owner who died in the house.
You don't get better proof than that. The one that I saw had built my sister's house, and she was having a get-together, so she was across the room playing pool, and I saw him, and I'd never seen his picture. I had no idea what he looked like, and she said, don't say anything, just I want you to describe him exactly as you saw him, and just down to a T. She said, yeah, that was him.
Yeah, very nice.
So I have 2 questions for you.
For me? Sure.
One, do you get anything here in this area?
Right here? I'm just getting so many people. I wish some of them would clear out so that I could, focus in a little bit more. You have your own personal
Jesus.
chaos of energy around you at all times. So, not really. I'm not really getting anything right now. Just people.
So the reason I ask is I've had 2 personal experiences here.
Mm-hmm.
Both during a reveal.
Okay.
And the first experience I had, we were sitting here up along this area right here. There was the typical like black mass kind of fog. Just traveling along right there in the street. Now I don't necessarily equate, black was bad.
Right.
And most people are going to be like, oh, that's evil. It's a cloud of evil.
Well, it could be, but maybe not.
That's not. I don't go that way. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I was like, that's kind of cool, but it could have been a trick of the eye, whatever. As an investigator, you have to debunk these,
Yeah.
So I kind of played it off. Second time, couldn't play it off. We're sitting here doing exactly what we're doing now. Greg was sitting at that table. I'm up here, and I look up behind him. And standing behind him.
No, I'm sitting right here, same seat.
Oh, were you? Okay, my bad. He was sitting right there, and I look up, and right behind him was the most solid, clear shadow person I have ever seen. It looked like a black cardboard cutout.
Awesome.
Just for a second.
Now, is it with the place or is it with him?
I would imagine this is with the place.
Okay.
Because it was exactly as everybody else had described.
Oh, okay.
And he was just there for just a second, he was just checking everything out and listening. I personally don't get a bad feel here. I like the feel here. It's got a good vibe. But that's why I asked about this area in particular.
Well, that light's right in my eyes right now, so I can't see up there. But yeah, I didn't.
So that brings me to a second question.
Okay.
So, how does your gift work? Because honestly, I can't say that, and I know that's a generic, super common question, but I have never sat down with a psychic before. I've
Okay.
never had the opportunity.
Well, we
talk.
have sat down before, but
Well, yeah, but we really didn't talk about that.
You're right.
Per se.
Yeah.
We talked about a myriad of everything else.
Right.
But we really hadn't talked about that. So.
Well, hold on. Why would you say, is it with me?
well, the first time I met Daniel, do you want to tell them about the first time I met you? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first time I met him was in the basement of the Masonic Temple. And I was in there, Christian was in there, Marina was in there, and actually it was before Marina got there, so it was just you and Christian. And we were talking, and I said, who's that man? And he said, what man? And I said, there's a man standing right behind you. And he said, what does he look like? And it was his father. And I described his father to a T. People, we all, well, I shouldn't say we all, a lot of people travel with family, with spirit guides, and things like that. So a lot of times they show up. So that's why it could have been somebody with you.
That's possible. I think a lot of stuff's transitory too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like where we lived in New Mexico, the house itself was just a regular, tract house, not a big deal. But sometimes it felt like stuff was just passing through all the time.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it was a thing. So that's just what I was wondering if it was good. I would like a heads up if you had to.
Well, because like in my house growing up,
around me, so.
our house was built in 1850 and built onto through the years. And we had 3 resident spooks, as they don't actually like it when I call them that. But we had 3 residents in the house. One was my grandfather, which I didn't dare tell my mother about for many, many years because she would have freaked out. But her dad, who died before I was born. And then there were 2 other people I still don't know, and they were there all the time. So they weren't attached to the house. They were attached to me, and I don't know who else. I have no idea who they are or why they were there. I mean, other than just being sort of, I've always felt very, very protected, and our house has always felt very protected. And the house is no longer there. Pardon me?
I said you're probably a light bulb to them.
Maybe, and it runs in my family. Some people don't want to admit it and think it's a little loony, but yeah, it runs pretty hard in my family. So to answer your question, it is hard to answer that question because I don't know how to be any other way. Right. I was born this way. This is how I am. And So I hear things, I feel things, I see things. And it's just like talking to you right now. If I'm seeing somebody, like you both have people with you right now. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, you do. And it's good. It's good. People, yours is a woman. It'll come to me, but so very loving, and maybe a grandmother or an aunt or something like that. It just, just with you. But yeah, I definitely hear things and see things. The downside of that is if I'm with someone that I know is sick. Many years ago, the woman who taught me that it was okay to be this way, she just passed away at 101. She's an amazing psychic in my hometown who sort of had to hide her gift. But she had told me, I said to her, is there ever any time when you don't tell people what you see or what you hear? She said, well, if I know someone's sick or someone's dying, if there's something that they can't do anything about it, I won't tell them. And I was doing a reading for a woman years ago in a little restaurant. And I was telling her all these things, and her mouth was just dropping open the whole time. And she said, well, we probably should go. And I said, your husband's not well. And she said, excuse me? I said, your husband's not well. I said, he's toxic. I said, he needs to cleanse. He needs to get something. I said, and I just went on, and I couldn't help it. Sometimes I just have to tell people things. And I told her, I said, he's toxic. He'll be fine, but he needs to cleanse. And I said, as a matter of fact, his skin is almost gray. He is unwell. And she looked at her friend, and her friend looked at her, and her husband walked through the door right at that moment, and he was like gray as chalk. And she said, you're scaring me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you asked, So, but mostly it's good stuff. Like I said, I do a lot of tarot readings and things, and people ask a lot of questions that I can't answer. Especially, does my boyfriend like me? I get that one a lot.
And I've experienced card readings. It wasn't tarot, but it was fortune cards. I think it was fortune cards.
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same.
And my friend who taught me how to read them, I haven't said I read them too, not as well as she did, but it's pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing. There was actually a nurse that we worked with together. She read for her 6 times. 6 times death came up. 6 times somebody she knew died. She said, you are not reading for me.
That's interesting. Because the death in tarot, a death card does not mean death. It means dramatic change. So it could be death, but I don't think I've ever had it where it has meant death.
Well, this particular combination with the cards actually means physical death.
Oh, gotcha.
And it came up. It's the only combination in the deck that means physical death. Everything else is metaphorical. But in this case, it's physical death. 6 times. And she read for me, a bunch of times, and it was accurate. But it's not always exactly what you think it is.
No, it's not.
That's the funny thing.
That's the tricky thing about reading tarot is each card means something. But I do a Celtic cross, so it's, 3 cards this way, 2 this way, and 4 this way. I'm on a cross. And each position means something as well. So a card in this position will mean something different than a card in this position, and they tend to relate. And it can be a little tricky, but I'm an interpreter. That's really, people say, well, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, I didn't say that. You said that. I'm interpreting. Yeah.
So how does, and that brings up another question, and I'm sorry to turn this into a podcast, Joe.
That's okay.
That's what it's going to be.
Awesome.
I figure
I'll send you a bill.
Here, right?
Yeah, why not?
How does, when you do a reading,
Uh-huh.
how does your gift and the reading mesh? Because I know when you do a reading, you're interpreting what, we'll say, source is telling you
Right.
through those cards, right?
Yes.
But when you have this interpretation of the cards plus this other auxiliary information coming in, how does that mesh?
Usually the auxiliary information, you mean from outside sources, basically. Okay, so basically it's a one-on-one connection. I read a lot over the phone, which can be very tricky because the person's not in front of me. So I can't see a lot of things. I don't get a lot of, it's almost like they're shut out for that period of time, unless they have other people who want to speak for them or through them. But generally, I never thought about that before, but it stays separate.
In my field, I get a lot of questions about ghost animals, right? Mm-hmm. Well, have you ever caught a cat or a dog or some sort of animal on film that can even be ghosts? My opinion, yeah, because I felt it. Mm-hmm. As a psychic, what do you say?
Oh, absolutely. I believe animals have souls, absolutely, and again with how we are with energy, that energy goes somewhere. And I felt mine, I had the same dog for almost 17 years, and everyone said she was my familiar in a way. So I've felt her. But many times people will hear or see their animals, noises, doors, doggy doors or whatever opening. So I firmly believe they're out there.
I've had a mini cat jump up on the bed with.
That would kill me. I'm allergic.
Well, I would hope that they don't have spectral dander. So, but
it's a good name for a band.
Yeah, spectral. All that is. I should patent that.
You should.
So that's cool. And personally, I believe that everybody innately has a gift.
Absolutely.
But we're walked off to it. We're taught that it's not real, that we can't use it. It's taught.
Woo-woo.
Exactly. What do you think about that? As somebody that actually practices with a gift
I didn't for a long time. I first realized it when I was a child, and I think I was 9. There was a lot of turmoil going on in our household, and that's when she appeared, the first one. And it's strange as a child to have someone standing in your bedroom talking to you as we're talking right now. And I was afraid to say anything because, that just doesn't seem normal. But I kept it secret for a long time. And when I get really busy and focused on other things, it's not as prevalent. I don't feel it as much just because I'm focused on paying the bills or going to work or whatever it is that I'm doing. I think that everybody has a gift. They say we use 10% of our brains. Some days that's questionable for me. But I think it's definitely there. We all have different gifts, like you said, but it takes practice and belief in what you're doing. And it as we get older, we become much more jaded, and we do close ourselves off from that kind of thing. I did for a long time.
For somebody that... I have a friend who I think is very, very powerful. Mm-hmm. She just don't realize it and was afraid of it. But she's had experiences that are kind of undeniable.
Okay.
And I can't go into a whole lot of detail because, I haven't been given permission to.
Of course.
But
of course.
From somebody, and I think she has a very similar gift to what you're talking about, being able to actually see people. Mm-hmm. And, but there's a lot of dream work too. So 2 questions rolled into one. You experience a lot of your gift in dreams, and 2, for somebody like her that's on the burgeoning cusp of their gift blossoming, what advice would you give? That was a whole lot of words, wasn't
That's okay.
I'm surprised you knew burgeoning.
The Burgeoning, another band name.
Yeah.
So the fear is a big thing. I've had instances where I've had night terrors, only a couple ever, where I've done things that, this makes me sound like a criminal. Let me think of how to say this. So I may have done or said something that displeased the greater powers that be, and they let me know it in various ways. Doors slamming. The worst one, and I don't think I've ever told anybody this one, I was driving down the road, and the steering wheel was ripped out of my hands, and I almost wrecked my car. And I was on a little side road going to my house. I was going maybe 5 miles an hour. It was terrifying. And I just said, I got your point. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. I was sort of influencing someone's behavior just to see if I could do it. And yeah, I won't ever do that again. But so my dreams are very weird. I have very weird dreams. And for me as a writer, that's part of my creative process. So I don't take much from my dreams. But as far as someone being afraid of their gift or afraid, that's really going to hinder her. I assume it's her. But so it's just about practice and being confident in what she can do. So start small. You know, does she have a specific, like one specific niche that you can talk about?
I don't know. We're still talking about a lot of this. She's just a lot of it is because of me and what I do. We talk about a lot of the things that I've learned doing what I do, and I've met some incredible people. And when I hear something that might pertain to what's going on, then I relay it.
Sure.
So she's trying to delve a little bit more into it, but she has a hard time trusting people.
Right.
So if it comes from me, she trusts it a little bit more.
Okay.
So like she hadn't actually sat down with anybody that I know and said, look, this is what's going on.
Right.
So that's a little, I don't know, we're still discovering it.
It might be a good thing for her to be in touch with. Most people that I know that are gifted have they have ways of protecting themselves. I never walk into an investigation without protecting myself. And so learning how to do that and, you know, trusting if she has spirit guides or whatever, trusting them is going to take her a long way. Start very small. That's really the best way to do it. And it grows. I mean, I've been doing this ever since I was a kid, so it gets bigger and bigger.
Well, everything with me started when I was 5.
That's, yeah.
So, I think I have any other questions at the moment. Yeah. I've been taking up all the time.
Yep.
But it's been good. You've learned. I know some big words.
One.
Spectral and burgeoning. I think that was 2.
I don't think I've ever used burgeoning.
Now you will.
Yeah. It's probably true.
I always love watching the news when one of the newscasters you can tell that person has learned a new word this week and will work it in any way they can.
Force it, yeah.
It's like, that, no. That doesn't.
Yeah, great. So, somebody like me that I've had a lot of personal experiences. I've had some very negative personal experiences, which has caused me to protect myself, and I think overprotect myself to the point where it spreads when I walk into a room, and has some blockages.
Okay.
I know I have blockages.
Most people do.
I may have some more than others. But what advice would you give me as far as to controllably open myself up?
Do it in a safe space. Just like your friend. Start experimenting, but make sure you're in a protected space. That way you'll feel safe to do it. Is there one specific instance that you can give me?
As far as what?
Where you would have wanted to be more open?
On any of the investigations. I mean, I thoroughly believe that I will negate stuff in a room.
I've heard that. You've told me that.
Yeah, I've seen it actually happen. We'll be on an investigation somewhere, part of the group. We have a great session. I'd be like, come join in on this. I'll come sit down and nothing after that. So it would be helpful in an investigation if I didn't do that. So I'd like to be able to pull that back in a little bit and open up and be a little bit more sensitive to what's going around. You know. Does that
Why
make
do you
sense?
want them to go away so much?
I don't. It's unconscious. It's completely unconscious. My issues with the old hag that I used to have and sleep paralysis. The 2 times that I got my head slammed into the bedside table. You know, those caused me to lean more towards what do I need to do to protect myself.
Right.
And I've done that, but I've overdone it. You know, when I do something, I do it right. I tend to overdo it. It's like putting something in a safe place, you'll never see it again. So I think that's kind of what I've done.
So maybe you just need to, I think a lot of times, and we do this as children, is we develop defense mechanisms that no longer work for us. So it sounds like you need to switch gears and do a form of protection where the good stuff can come in but the bad stuff can't. And that's pretty simple to do. It's just getting rid of the whole putting up the walls where nothing can come in. Because it sounds like you're putting off the vibe of, I don't want you here.
Right.
And so they're leaving because they don't want to be where they're not wanted if they're good
Now, on
spirits.
the flip side of that, it's been beneficial in at least one investigation that we've had. It was, I can't really talk about it. It was an amazing investigation, but it was, there was a lot of negative, and kids were involved.
Oh,
And
it's tough.
we all went in and, you know, basically real gung-ho, wasn't playing around, wasn't even worried about doing an investigation. It's more about helping. The last time that I went in with that full attitude. You need to leave. You're going to leave. You have no choice but to leave.
Right.
Almost 2 years later, they're good. So, you know, that was beneficial in that case. So what I need to do is learn to do both.
And that's tricky because I sort of have that same bull in a china shop mentality where if I want you gone, you're going to be gone. I don't care what you say. And that doesn't always serve me well psychically or in life, by the way. But I've been in that same situation where I've walked in and I'm fine, and all of a sudden it's like someone just dropped black tar or something over me. It's like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here now because it's not safe here for me. So as far as, I think you just have to learn to trust yourself to know what's good and what's not good. I don't think you trust yourself. You're just I'm just going to block everything out so I can't be hurt. So you're just going to have to learn. Again, you're just going to have to learn what is okay. And you can do that through your protection, your blocking techniques. But those are vital. I tell everybody, if you're ever going to do any of this kind of work, you need to know how to protect yourself.
Yeah, because when you do it, you invite stuff in.
I remember my nieces, who were both very gifted, but I never told them till they were older because it just wasn't being a good idea. They were playing with the Ouija board. And everyone's, oh, it's just a piece of wood. No, it's not. And they were playing with it, and they wanted to tell me about their experiences, and they were very excited. They were like 11 and 13 at the time. They were pretty young.
No idea about protection.
Not at all. And they actually had a really good, positive connection with a family friend that had passed. And I said, girls, you got to promise me you're never going to do that again. I said, if you do it again, I'm going to teach you how to do it right, or I'm going to be there with you. Like, well, what's the big deal? And I said, well, you know, you're inviting everything in. I said, you don't know what you're inviting in, and what are you going to do if you invite something in that is bad? And they couldn't quite grasp it. And I said, okay, I'm going to put it to you this way. You live in Manhattan. You throw open the doors to your apartment and you're saying, come on in. What are you going to do when they won't leave and someone's wants to hurt you? Yeah. And they're like, okay, I think I get it now. You know, it's just like, don't do that.
So I'm in total agreement. Should employ a Ouija board. But let me ask you this: in your opinion, what's the difference between a Ouija board and other forms of divination?
It's just your intent, really. It's just, I think most people with Ouija boards, and again, it's just anything could work the same way. It's your intention and your skill level and just knowing what to say and what not to say. You just don't invite anybody into your house. And
Be very concise.
Yeah, and I think exactly. The universe is very concise. I'm very careful about my language. And a lot of people who do those kinds of things have never done it before, and they think it's fun.
I've been guilty of that.
Really?
That was Daniel. He came to me like slap on the wrist when I first met him because me and two other people were in here and we tried scrying.
Scrying.
So we were staring in a buckets of water. I only did it for 10 minutes, but he was explaining to me about opening things up, and I haven't done it since. Then also we tried dowsing before too, and again I haven't played with any of that since then. Because we've heard about it, we're just trying to see again before we knew anyone about paranormal what to do. I mean, I was just trying to do anything to try to get more answers in here, and so that could have been a situation I might have got myself for this building in trouble.
You didn't, but you could have.
Could have, yeah.
Yeah.
But talking about intent, my intent wasn't. I don't know if those things can recognize that. It's like, hey, I'm not trying to do something bad, wrong. I'm just really inquisitive, like, who are you? Why are you here? Do you need something?
What were you doing with dowsing? I've done scrying before and had somebody show up that I didn't want to show up, and I shut that thing down fast.
It was just asking questions like how many people are here, stuff like basic questions, basic yes and no questions. Mm-hmm. I saw two different buddies do it in here, so then here I am with some 550 cord and a washer, show me
works.
Yes, show me no, and then started asking, it's like, how does that work? And I'm thinking it's got to be someone else controlling it, but then you actually put it in your hand yourself, and like, I'm not moving, and this thing's moving different directions. So just interesting, but not knowing what the hell I'm doing, haven't done it since, especially after linking up with these guys and be like, no.
What's so funny, talking about dowsing, it was in my grandmother used to do it, and I never knew what that meant. But the way she did it was she would take it was always about babies, like boy or girl, with the wedding ring and, over the wrist. And she was always right. And so later on when I really learned about dowsing, I was like, oh my gosh, my grandma was a dowser and probably didn't even know what it meant, But dowsing is a lot of fun, just as long as you're protected.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's all about intent and protection.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first found my first pendulum, I was at a psychic fair with my best friend, and I hadn't used it before. So we're walking through, and there was this rack of stone pendulums. Perfectly still, no vibrations, nothing, and this one just started going nuts, just, this way and this way, and she looked at me and said, that's yours.
I bought one when I went to Canada. The thing did not like me at all. I had to send it back. It was really pretty. I liked it, but I had to send it back. It did not like me.
Did you bless it?
No, I did not. I cleansed it. All that good stuff, but it just did not like me. And the one that did like me, I can't find it.
How's that battery?
It's actually good. Just like it's supposed to be. We can go 4 or 5 hours like this.
Yeah.
Last time, 10 minutes and swap the batteries.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my camera, I've had my camera shut down right in the middle of an investigation many times.
Every time we come here,
won't shoot, yep.
It was like that. We sat over there
I think it's
last time for 10, 15 minutes, just the K2 was pegged completely, and I just kept going through batteries. I was like, watch this.
I wasn't even
Battery
thinking
gone.
that. I brought my K2 and my laser. I don't know what I was thinking.
Might be hungry soon.
Yeah, it seems like ever since they hooked up with us, we have given them electronic problems.
When he was seeing the dude, I kept thinking that their daughters were trying to pass. So I kept trying to move out of the way. Because I had that light.
We did have the
over here,
girls
and I
here
wanted to
that
make
day.
sure that they could get by, because it is kind of bright. I kept doing it. And then, look over, Daniel's just like,
Yeah.
And then I stopped doing it. So like, okay, because my neck doesn't move, so I have really good peripheral vision. And I kept seeing. I'm like, okay. And I looked over there. They were still sitting
Yeah,
there
they're
like
like
this.
cuddled up like this.
I was like, okay, well, I don't want to know. I always get a little anxiety, just a little bit, like right here, when that sort of thing happens.
We were doing, I guess it was the first, I don't know which investigation, but we're all upstairs. And then all of us afterwards, all of us had that same feeling.
Yeah, I think that was the first one.
Yeah.
Well, I got it the second time over there.
I did too.
And then when I was walking, I can't think of his name, it's going to bug me now. He was like, man, do you feel that? Man, I got it right. He had the same thing.
It's probably Matt Travis, yeah.
Yeah, I had that when I came in here. I feel a little fluttery.
But see, I get it. It's weird because like when I sit here, I get it every once in a while. It sort of comes and goes. So,
Just that I see, I was saying that I see people walking back and forth.
So
That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense too, considering everything that this building has been, and a hair salon, and it's always been that place that people travel. It's a place in Marion. It's a hair salon. You can actually, and it used to be a bar. So it was right on the railroad, and it served railroad workers back in the day. So it would be a certain time, it would fill up, a certain time, they would leave, right? Because they're on the train. We investigated there probably 6 times. Tiny little building, probably from that wall to that wall, and not much wider than the stage. You could time the activity. It was so cool. It took a little minute to figure that out. But all it was those railroad workers coming in for a drink and leaving. That's all that was. So cool.
My dad was a railroad guy. Everything's timed. So
So cool.
it's so funny. My mom is very gifted, and she never wanted to talk about it, So my dad goes to bed at like 8 o'clock at night, and she
you
would.
felt it there. I felt it here.
Did someone just walk by you?
Yeah. I don't know. See, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like I can't really tell what I know or what I don't know. But when I see things out of the corner of my eye, and I can describe them in complete agony.
Oh, I have great peripheral vision too, so I get that. It's like, and then
like
you turn your head and they're gone.
It's all the time in here, though. It's
yeah,
constant.
no,
You
it's
feel like
weird.
something's walking by. Or
It's a weird thing.
That's probably because
I
they
used to
are.
not pay attention to. It's like, okay, since doing this stuff, I've been paying more attention to it.
Well, you think with, who do you tell your troubles to more than your bartender and your hairstylist? I mean, it's like, seriously, I mean, it's, women have been telling their hairstylist things for, 100 years and bars and.
So let me ask the women in the room a question.
Do I need to stop recording?
You can edit.
Yes, I'll let you go to Victoria's Secret with me.
So we're on the tour the other night, right? And the bicycle bar, whatever it is that everybody does up through here.
Pub
The Amazing
cycle.
Pub Cycle?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we.
It's not amazing, but it's a
No,
pub
you mean
cycle.
the amazing
Well,
pub
it is
cycle.
it is Asheville, so like there might be a bar where you have to have a bicycle to come in. It wouldn't surprise me.
That's true.
There's a place in Virginia Beach called the Elbow Room, and it's like literally 2 feet in, because the bar is right there and there's the wall.
Oh, I'd hate that.
From an elbow
A
room.
little coffee shop around here somewhere just like that. What was I saying? Oh yeah, bicycle bar.
No, the
So-
amazing unicycle pub room.
Unicycle. That would be interesting. Unicycle. Anyway.
Lasts about a minute.
Right. And we get past 3 times. Okay? Each and every time, all of these women go, woo! Scream and, talk about it. Comes on and let's have a good time, right? And the last one to pass has done the exact same thing, but these were all like middle-aged women. You expect it out of the kids. These were like, why do women do that?
Because they can.
I don't do that.
We do that on the Zoom bus just because that's sort of what you do.
Alcohol, yeah. that's
Alcohol's a big.
It's funny.
Pack
to me.
mentality?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
I was
every
gonna say that.
pub cycle though. Every single group, it's always a woo.
Yeah.
Or we're coming by with the mannequins or in the truck. It's all the same reaction. It's just you see it so much. It's like, man, we humans are just dumb creatures. We all do the same shit, and you put us in a group together, we all become dumber.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then add alcohol.
That's why I stay home. Yeah, alcohol is just, makes it worse. But.
You put 100 Albert Einsteins together individually, smartest men in the world, right? People in the world. You put them all together, they're...
Oh, yeah. They're going, woo!
Yeah. You're not supposed to cut on camera.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about that the other night on the tour. 'Cause I've been on the tour so much I don't even listen anymore. You know, I people watch. And I'm a real big fan of dad jokes, by the way. And I heard one. Somebody was passing. We were up here talking about where's the zoo. But we were talking about by the Jacksonville, the Target. There's a guy and his wife and his kid walked by, and I heard him go, you know, tried to go to Target once and missed.
The goal of M&D Paranormal is to compassionately, knowledgeably, and professionally support and offer paranormal services to those who have been affected by a paranormal experience, including those who have been indirectly affected. Services provided include paranormal investigation, property research, and evidence review of residential, business, and private property locations. Cleansing of these properties are available upon request. No matter the circumstances of the paranormal experience, M&D Paranormal strive to offer a non-judgmental environment to promote education, open communication, and empathy to each individual that chooses to share their experience or come into our service. In achieving this goal, M&D Paranormal is building and bringing together a community of open and like-minded individuals by offering free monthly gatherings and events at the Shop Eclectic, 49 State Street, Marion, North Carolina. Call us anytime at 828-484-1637 or 828-559-2818 or email us at mndparanormal@gmail.com.
And we're back.
Yep.
So there you go. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed that. And also, you can learn more about Pamela Mortimer. We actually have a link to her Facebook presence and her Instagram presence in our show notes. So, anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting thing. And one of the things that we didn't really talk about during the interview or anything like that, because it was basically happened way afterwards, was you had an experience that you pointed out. Do you remember what that was?
Well, I had two experiences.
But
now
you just showing up. Let's talk about the exciting one.
The pictures?
Yes.
So, I was talking with the owner and his wife, and we were just discussing some stuff about the activity. And it was funny because Ben, he's like, is that moving? And I was like, wait, is what moving? And we turned, and from the other end of the bar, we noticed towards the back of the bar, near the exits where there was shadow apparitions have been reported, we noticed that there's some pictures and they were moving on their own, and they were moving very quickly. Like they're attached to like this gallery display thing of strings, and that's how they're mounted to the wall. But there's 20 pictures hanging up?
Yeah, something like that.
And only 2 of them were moving back and forth very violently.
Yeah.
So I tried to run over there. I had the DJI Osmo Pocket, so not the best thing for light. And I tried to run over there, and as I did, they were still moving.
Nice.
Now, Ben, who is much taller than me, even checked, stuck his hand up in the air, was checking to see if there was any airflow or if vents that sometimes come on might have been blowing air in that direction.
Yeah, he was trying to debunk it.
And his wife actually went towards some exit doors, and she checked for airflow as well.
And see, that's what I like about those two. You know, they're
they
believe that they have stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I kind of think they do, because some of the footage that we have is going to be released in some video that we have later on. But they're quick to try to debunk it.
Yeah.
You know, they're not just like, this is great. We got, we got scary stuff, and, got some weird activity, and we're just going to, live with it.
Yeah.
They want to know. So they try to debunk stuff. And I seen him over there standing on top of one of the tables, waving a dish towel, back and forth, trying to recreate it. And she was back checking the door, and you were over there. And I just thought that was kind of weird. And,
yeah.
Me and Daniel were saying, well, that's about right.
Yeah.
So, every time we've gone there, we've experienced something. And, part of that has led to something that's pretty, I think, amazing. Mm-hmm. And the way this works, if you're in downtown Asheville, or if you know where Asheville is and you want to get there, July 2nd, you can go and be a part of a real ghost investigation where the bar, the Off the Wagon Dueling Piano Bar, will be investigated. So M&D Paranormal is going to be there, along with us, the Creep Geeks, because we're part of that team. And you can go and experience an investigation.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because if we did not know them, right, we would do this because it's like, yeah, let's go check it out and see what it's all about. And, you know, so if you are interested in that kind of thing and you're in the area and you want to go and you want to see us, or if you want to see or be a part of a real ghost investigation, as in not one you see on TV, but, you know, a real live investigation and not a ghost tour either.
Yeah. Come
down. So the first one is going to be July 2nd. There'll be a link that you can click on, or you can go to M&D Paranormal's Facebook page and RSVP. And you kind of need to RSVP to make sure that, you know, you can be on there, because that gives us an idea of how many people are actually going to be there. Because if too many people show up, there's only so many people you can take and do this kind of thing with. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great, because it seems like the more energy you have available, the more things have a tendency to happen. So it's going to be pretty good.
I'm actually putting a link for all you listeners in the show notes right now.
Yeah, in the show notes. But yeah, check out their Facebook page and, you know, do a little RSVP. And also, if you're having a hard time or can't find M&D for whatever reason to do that sort of thing, if you go to CreepGeeks.com and click on contact, you can basically drop us an email or message us through that, and we'll do what we can to make sure you're good for the RSVP. So, yeah. So any questions, comments, concerns you have about that, you can check it out on the internet and get those answers. Otherwise, send them to us, and we'll do the best we can to answer. I'm excited. I think it'll be good. So, very nice.
Yeah.
So speaking of young people growing weird horns.
Great segue.
Well, okay, this is something that I seen, and I was like, And this is kind of a strange thing, okay? Because growing horns is not necessarily a weird thing.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's kind of a strange thing. So young people are growing weird bumps on their skulls.
Okay.
Right? And this has been all over the place. This has been in not the New York Times. What's the other one? What's the name of that magazine that tried to discredit PewDiePie?
Washington Post.
Washington Post, yeah, I guess the newspaper. But in other places as well. And then this is like ScienceAlert.com, so it's even there as well. And they're talking about how it seems that our skeletal system is adapting to unique stresses caused by modern life, or of modern life, right?
Yeah.
So researchers in Australia have found evidence that young people appear to be growing these bony protrusions at the base of their skulls, right above the neck.
Huh.
And they look like horns, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. So after examining 1,200 x-rays of adult Australians, the researchers found that 41% of them, and this is between the ages of 18 and 30, have developed these bone spurs, which is about 8% more than the overall average. Now, if you're like Omi, right now you're scratching the back of your head trying to feel if you have these little bony protrusions. I did the same thing. So, I mean, I got a weird neck thing going on anyway, but I'm like, let me see, do I got that? And the only thing I felt was the fat on the back of my neck. If you press pretty hard at the base of your skull, right where your neck comes in, you may have
a bone
these
spur.
bony protrusions that kind of look like horns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, they come in different sizes, right? But 8% of the overall average of these 1,200 x-rays had it. And it says some are only like 10 millimeters long. And if you're an American, that's about 0.4 inches. Let's just say about half an inch or so.
Mm-hmm.
Others were like up to 30 millimeters long. So if you're American, that's 1.1 inches, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So you have like a 1-inch bony protrusion in the back of your head. And this was discovered in their 2018 survey. And I like the quote, "I've been a clinician for 20 years, and only in the last decade, increasingly, have I been discovering that my patients have this growth on the skull." Okay?
Okay.
So what's been really amazing with cell phones in the last decade? Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Internet service, faster internet, all that sort of thing.
Okay.
Okay. So my first thought when I read this and looked at these pictures was, in 30 years, or 300 years, never know with evolution, we're going to be able to use those bony protrusions to tune in to our phones.
That's horrifying.
Like, we're going to be able to, like, get internet, like radio antennas, and it'll play in our heads.
So, like some of the Android models where the antenna's built down the back of the phone?
Well, I mean, they're all kind of built in weird ways, but no, more like it'll be like an antenna-type receiver.
Oh,
so we won't even need an electronic device. We can just tune into the frequency.
No.
Yeah.
That's some tinfoil hat stuff.
No, it's not. That's what they said with Darwin. Oh, you're tinfoil. And he was like, I don't even know what that is. That hasn't been invented yet.
But...
Okay, you probably have to fact-check that later on.
Yeah, you probably do.
So anyway, and this is at the University of the Sunshine Coast.
Okay.
But yeah, it shows pictures of 27.8 millimeter, 25 or 24.5 millimeter. I don't know what that is. These little bony things sticking out. And the growths are happening at a very particular spot at the base of the skull. It's right at the lower part of the back of our heads. We got a large plate back there called the occipital bone. Mm-hmm. And towards its middle, there's a slight bump called the external occipital protrudence, where some of the neck ligaments and muscles are attached.
Yeah.
And because of that site, right, it's technically called enthesis. And these are places in our skeletons that can be prone to develop spiky bone growths, called something I can't pronounce. And typically in response to mechanical stress, for example.
Okay.
So in other words, muscle strain can cause these bony growths.
So is that
which is an awesome name for a band, like punk band, bony growths, right?
So is that because we're constantly looking down in a downward position?
Well, it's funny you say that.
Okay.
They're thinking that since the dawn of the handheld technological revolution and the sustained poor posture that our devices bring, that yes, this can be a cause to it. And such degenerative features, in a person's skeletons are likely symptoms of aging. But in this case, since it's being linked to young people, right?
Yeah.
They're saying that, basically eyeballing your phone all the time and that sort of thing is exacerbating this problem.
That's so weird because,
But here's where it gets here's where the whole thing is sort of sexist. Being male, right?
Okay.
Increased an individual's chances of having an extended EOP, that's that bony thing?
Yeah.
By more than 5-fold. And this does align with the historical findings of more spiny EOPs in males over females. And this could be explained by the increased mass of the head and the neck along with increased muscle power. Because we're so manly and we have more muscles, right? Mm-hmm. And it's exacerbated by possibly using these handheld devices. We're 5 times more likely or 5-fold more likely to have this.
So the one thing I wanted to point out about this is there's validity to this. And while I'm not going to acknowledge that men are,
Well, hold on. It gets a little weird here. Let me do this real quick before you jump in there because I know what you're going to say. The average forward head protraction recorded in the survey was 26 millimeters. And the authors say that this is significantly larger than what was recorded in 1996. So you have the forward head thing? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I want to say it was about a decade ago that they noticed certain problems with spine and head and neck with Polynesians and Asians. And it was relating to the increase in the digital age. Because myself and my dad, we have this weird protrusion right where our neck meets the rest of our spine. And it bumps out a little bit because we are more affected by the blue light of computers. We have to strain our eyes more, which results in us straining our necks more forward and looking. And that's very common for Polynesians and Asians. So
I don't believe that.
It's true.
I think it's more common with everybody because that's part of the forward head protraction.
But it's
you guys may be more predispositioned to have a big fat deposit on the back of your necks.
Yeah.
And the stoop neck thing, but
yeah,
I think overall
it's because of our
this is just a small Australian survey,
but that's because of our eye sensitivity.
But
so,
irregardless, which isn't a word.
Yeah.
I think if they extended it or expanded this study to go outside of Australia,
it would be
these numbers would be ginormous.
Yeah.
So As in, way more impactful than what this survey says. Even though this survey is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, they even go down here and say, well, while the findings are fascinating, we must remember that drawing casual link outside the scope of this study, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, the methodology of this research has even been called into question. To me, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because with my neck thing going on, I'm not saying that phones caused it by any, but it makes sense because the, you know, the location and all that sort of thing. And I can totally see it. You can see it just walking down the street, people just all in their phones.
Yeah.
You know, the poor posture, the fact that a lot of people don't go outside and do stuff outside anymore. You're anchored to a desk or a situation like that, you know?
Well, so
like kids playing video games.
Just to get back to that, I mean, like, okay, so a decade ago they noticed that, you know, the whole leaning forward at your computer, at some point you are way too close to your monitor thing.
Yeah.
And now we're noticing with handheld devices, you know, this weird bony spur. Is the digital age changing the human spine or skeletal structure?
Yeah.
So we're getting less and less.
Well, I mean, yeah, because, okay, here's why I put this in here, because I wanted to get to this point. The fact that our modern convenience or modern contrivances, right, that are causing us problems can go back a long ways. And it goes back to, like, use shoes, for example. You walk differently when you're wearing shoes versus barefoot.
Yes.
So when we didn't have shoes at all, we walked completely differently. Our gait was different. Our posture was different. How we actually walked more in a sort of a crouch forward, balls of the feet, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And could travel these great distances, probably a lot easier than now. We could not do that. You couldn't just take your shoes off and do that because of the way our feet have been trained from wearing shoes to actually fit the shoe and that sort of thing. It completely changes how we walk.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, just by the adventure, because with shoes and changing our instep and everything like that, it would take a long time for us to train our feet to go back to being barefoot and being able to, you know, motivate in a more efficient fashion than what we're currently doing, right?
Yeah.
Because then, you know, on top of all that, you'd have to build up the callus layer and all that stuff for rocks and all the pointy stuff that you step on. It really changes the gait, so your gait is not natural. So, did you hear a beep?
Yeah, I heard a beep.
So, that's probably just my FBI guy checking in. So, but yeah. So, since shoes have screwed the way we walk and or run, I can totally see how modern handheld devices are going to screw the way we sit, stand, and look.
Yeah.
So the only way to defeat that would be maybe having glasses or like VR visors or something where you don't have to be looking down all the time.
Remember they tried to do...
Yeah, they tried that when it was garbage, man, where it was like $1,200 a pair for like Google Glass.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very good.
No.
So, I mean, the way screens are being developed now and the fact that we have flexible screens and roll-up screens and, you know, really thin LED type screens, I wouldn't be surprised if they can put these in glasses soon, very soon.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was crazy. So there you go, you bony necks. You look up to the sky every once in a while. And while you're there, take a look to see if you see anything flying in it.
Okay.
Like maybe some UFOs or something like that. So, yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting to put in there.
And then, speaking of UFOs, last time we talked about modern American henges and our Weird Wednesday trip to a modern American henge, which was Cadillac Ranch.
Cadillac Ranch.
In Amarillo. And this one of our upcoming podcast episodes, we're actually going to talk about, we're going to talk about our little thing that we did, Space Spruce Pine Alien Conference and Expo recap.
Yeah, it was a pretty good experience. Got to hang out a little bit and sort of do some things, and we're going to talk about that, where we got to meet some people that were part of the event. Yeah. And we're going to talk all about that in great and agonizing detail, including some of the stuff that they were there for. Like Mike Barrer was there, Donna Friedrich was there, Dr. Stamey was there. A lot of people were there. So it was pretty good experience, and we're going to talk about that in great and agonizing detail, and it'll be a good time. Yeah. But other than that, I think this podcast has gone off long enough. This has been your Weird Wednesday episode of the CreepGeeks Podcast, and that title was, in case you're writing things down, We Met a Psychic. And there's an interview and investigation too.
Yeah.
So any questions, comments, concerns, let us know. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns? You?
I don't.
Naomi?
But
Host of the CreepGeeks Podcast?
if you do, if you listeners do, please be sure to reach out to us. That phone number again is going to be 575-208-4025. Alternately, you can email us. That's going to be contact@creepgeeks.com. You can also visit creepgeeks.com and click on that Contact Us button and fill that out if you'd like to hear back from us. Yeah.
Nice. That's it?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been good talking to you. I hope you come back again and listen to us some more. And like I said, if it's your birthday, happy birthday. But we're glad you've been with us and glad you've been listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast. So, yeah, it'll be good. We'll see you next time. So anyway, see you later. Take it easy. Bye, Sickle.
Bye.
Yeah.